Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's time for another Generation 1 Transformer review. We're going to take a look at something we haven't looked at for a while. We're going to take a look at a Decepticon jet. More specifically here, we have the 1985 Decepticon Warrior, Dirge. Dirge was released in 1985. He would be part of the second wave of Decepticon jets. He would also be available in 1986. He would be discontinued in 1987, and we would not really get a replacement for him, as any warriors that were released were smaller troopers, basically in the form of the cassette robot Overkill. And I really don't see him as a replacement for Dirge. Dirge, like many of the other Decepticon Seeker jets, shares the same body style, but in 1985 they started to have different accessories to help differentiate them from Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker. Of course, the also obvious difference was also in the animated series. Dirge and his buddies Ramjet and Thrust were all depicted as coneheads. Now, while the instructions will tell you that the proper way to transform Dirge is to go like that and keep the cone back so that you have the regular style head like the others, some fans do like to go with the animated appearance and go with the cone head up. Whichever way you choose to display your Dirge is entirely up to you, my viewers, and I will not judge you by how you choose to do that. Just bear in mind, I'm going with the cartoon version on this case, so that's how I'm going to display this one. So please don't hold it against me. And let's move on with the review. We'll start, of course, by taking a look at Dirge's articulation. And it's, unfortunately, the same as it was for the other Seeker jets in the fact that it is primarily limited to the arms. The arms can rotate all the way, but you'll have to fold the wings back. You'll have to fold the wings back all the way to allow the arm to fully rotate. But it does have some articulation at the shoulder, so it can be brought out to a small angle along the sides. Again, the more you move the wings out of the way, the more he gains. So at least he has that much going for him, but it isn't much to get excited over. But at least he looks somewhat natural trying to aim his guns. Now we'll move on to transforming Dirge. Well, before we do that, I want to point out something special about Dirge. Dirge would also become, in Japan, a mail-away featured in this flyer right here. Now the interesting thing is, with this, is while we got a similar flyer shown here in America, the mail-away jet was Thundercracker. Oh, there isn't much to some of you, but it is a nice little bit of trivia. Now let's get started in transforming Dirge. And of course, to do that, we need to, first of all, remove his guns and his fists. And to help with things easier as well, remove the wings. Now, to get him transformed, we basically will take his head and fold it backwards a bit so that we can slide the nose piece and the cockpit, might have to adjust it a little, all the way through like so. Then you'll bring the head section up and snap it into place like that. Next, you'll need to fold his arms down to the sides, fold them into the hole so you can fully put the cockpit in place. And next, we're going to take his feet and fold them up against his legs. And you see these black sections here, we're going to fold them, push them to the side so that the hole is poking out the side. And then next, of course, we can attach his wings into those holes. They don't go up flush against his body like they did on Starscream and Thundercracker and Skywarp, so that's a disappointment, but it's one we'll have to live with. And of course, on the undersides of the wings, we have a couple of holes. That's where you'll mount his guns. And then, of course, we got this little hole right up here, just beneath his head. That's where you will stick his landing gear to help him stand up a little bit better. Right here on this table. Now, he's still listed as an F-15 on his alternate mode, but he's an F-15 with delta wings and a front canard. So he's designed to look and fly somewhat differently than his counterparts are. It's an interesting addition. It's an interesting change. I'm not a big fan of the color on his wings, though, but it looks kind of good. I think they should have picked a different color for Dirge, but if you saw my video for Thundercracker, I showed you in there how you can tell the two toys apart. So, if need be, please do go back and check it. It'll be in the video on my playlists. I hope by now many of you have noticed there is a playlist page on my channel now, so please do consult with it if you're looking for any specific Transformer. Now, of course, does he swoosh? Yeah, he does swoosh pretty good. I mean, we'll give Hasbro and Takara that. They do. These toys do swoosh pretty good, one-handed. And when you got airplanes, that's the thing you want. Alright, let's take a look at his loose parts here, and we're going to start with his wings. So the wings, and as you'll see, they have a couple of sticker details. One is right here on the tail, and they got a longer one running along down the side. It's kind of disappointing that, unlike many of the others, he doesn't have a large Decepticon logo on the wings. I think that would have been a nice addition. And of course, as you can see here on the underside of the wing, it's more or less, you got the hollow lines in here, and you got the hole here for the machine guns, or missiles, however you want to call them. And then, of course, you got the one piece that's standard for all the Decepticon jets. It's their landing gear. Dirge, Ramjet, Thrust, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp all come with this exact same piece. So if you're having a hard time finding one, you can scavenge it out of another toy if need be. Now, a part that that Dirge shares with Thundercracker are these black fists. In fact, Ramjet and Thrust also have black fists like this. So all three of them are scavenging it from Thundercracker. The biggest thing you got to pay attention is that it has these grooves in it. If it has these grooves in it, then that's built for him. If it's a solid If it's all solid, then what you have is somebody scavenged them off of an old thundercracker. And those don't belong on Dirge. So bear that in mind, folks. If you happen to find a loose Dirge that has solid black fists, not this groove cut into them, those fists belong to Thundercracker. And then, of course, lastly, we have 2 of these missiles or machine guns. Yeah, the instructions refer to them as concussion missiles, but when they're on his arm, they're his guns, so it's kind of whatever you want to call them. Only down here on the post, it's not that easy to see on the camera. There is a groove that runs up and down here on the side with the post, but other than that, they're just a piece of black plastic. And that covers Dirge's loose parts. Alright, now we're going to take a look at Dirge's instructions. As you can see, the artwork for him on there has the cone pointing backward. But it also seems to imply that he can hold his guns. Rather strange. We start going through here. I'll show you how to get him fully set up after you take him out of the box. And then now to transform him. And as you can see right here, that's where they tell you to push the nose back. But if you're more cartoon accurate, you'll leave it up. But again, just like I told you earlier, folks, that's your choice how you display him. Here we got the stickers, and as you can see there on the stickers, he does have Decepticon. He's supposed to have Decepticon stickers on his wings. Kind of a shame the previous owner didn't do that. Oh well. Can't complain when you're buying them on the secondary market, folks. And right here we got the new feature for 1985, the rub sign. It tells you here how do you deal with it and collect your robot points so you can buy other characters, and how to read your tech specs. And of course, speaking of tech spec, as soon as I get the decoder out of this bag here, come on, give me. There we go. Got the decoder out. Now we got the tech spec here. It's got a nice picture of Dirge. This would have been in the same picture on the front of the box. It's all done up in purple to show he's a Decepticon. Even lists him as such. It gives his name as Dirge, and his function is Warrior. His motto is, "Fear is the element that unites all losers." The sound of his engines causes petrifying fear in those who hear them. He's a master at handling fear. Other Decepticons are put off by his mournful, silent ways. He gives me the creeps, says Dirge. Does that mean he talks to himself? I believe that that's a typo. So I believe in the More Than Meets the Eye guide, I believe it was supposed to have been changed to Ramjet. He carries 2 concussion missiles. Needs to control a situation. Otherwise, he too falls victim to fear, making him useless as a warrior. So he's a master of fear, huh? So is he trying to compete with the Scarecrow, the Batman villain? Funny, I don't see him being voiced by Cillian Murphy or even Robert Englund. Although that would probably be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Freddy Krueger voices Dirge. If there's anybody from Machinima watching this, take notes. Anyways, let's bring up the tech spec decoder and let's see how Dirge handles himself. It lists his strength as 7, his intelligence and speed are 8, his endurance is 6, his rank is 5, his courage is 4, his firepower is 8, and his skill is 9. I'm betting his skill was done during a moment when he was in control, because with the way that bio sounds, if he's afraid, I don't think he'd be ranking that high as a warrior. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Dirge? Dirge, I think, had the potential to be an interesting character. Unfortunately, the Hasbro cartoon did not portray the fear engines like they could have. Probably in some sort of fear that we would be put off by the toy that causes people to get scared. I don't think they gave us a lot of credit for our intelligence and our ability to discern make-believe from reality back in those days. Nowadays, kids don't have any idea of the differences between the two. We can see that just by how often they're shown on the news, being in major league trouble and being carted off to jail. But I think back then, they were trying to shield us from something that we really should have learned how to deal with more. A fair amount of some of the other cartoons that were being shown back then, even ones that Hasbro helped produce, did help bring up the issues of fear. I certainly know that another one from Hasbro's toy line, although for the girls, their Gem cartoon series did have an episode that really struck out about fear and being scared. And while it isn't the best episode written, I do give it many bonus points for tackling an issue that children growing up really needed to learn how to deal with. And I think Sunbow and Hasbro missed out on an opportunity to do the same thing with Dirge here. So that's a missed opportunity in hindsight. As a toy, Dirge is okay. I mean, there's a slight changeover from how the original Seeker Jets were done, and I do like the changes. It does make him stand out a little bit more, although I think they should have picked a different color than the blue, but it's okay. The jet design, it's not bad. I mean, it could be worse, but it could also be better. But part of that bias is coming from the fact that the wings on this sample are incomplete. I really wish the previous owner would have put the big Decepticon symbols on the wings there. Just, it would have looked a little better. But then again, the purple on that color probably wouldn't look all that great either. But character-wise, I think Dirge belongs somewhere in the middle tier. Having a way to generate fear amongst the Autobots is definitely a great psychological advantage that he would have. But, unfortunately, what keeps him out of the top tier on that is the fact that, unlike characters like the Scarecrow that he's trying to emulate, he has no control over his own fear. And if he can't control the situation, he ends up becoming a victim of his own fears, and that makes him useless as a warrior on the battlefield. So it would have been kind of interesting to see his interactions with Starscream and or Megatron as to how he mishandled his own fears in battle and thus cost the Decepticons a victory. So, like I said, folks, I think I'm going to go more with a middle tier on this one. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Decepticon Warrior Dirge. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. And don't forget also hit that subscribe button if you haven't joined up with us already. Please also consider leaving a like for the video and share your thoughts of Dirge in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.